Your new music roundup for summer of 2021 has arrived. Hey everyone, Cadaver Kelly here. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. If you're new here, I'm an underground music journalist with a focus in post-punk, wave, goth rock, death rock, synth pop, and dark punk. In this video, I'm going to be letting you know my picks for new music releases for summer of 2021. That is June through August. This will include albums and EPs. I didn't include singles because that's just too much ground to cover for one video. This will include all of the standard genres under the goth umbrella: goth rock, death rock, dark wave, cold wave, ethereal wave, and dark post-punk. It will also include some adjacent or related genres like synth pop, other types of post-punk, and dark electronic. Without further ado, let's jump right into this list, starting with June of 2021. As always, I will post a link to the list of these releases on Bandcamp in the video description. The list is too long to put directly in the description, so I posted it up on my website, and I'll provide the link to that list. On June 1st, Scranton, Pennsylvania-based artist Prophet Isaiah released a 9-track album called Nefarious. This album is an experimental mix of sounds with flavors of dark wave, synth pop, dark post-punk, goth, and some influences outside of the goth umbrella. On June 4th, Seattle, Washington-based duo HALLOWS released an 11-track album called All That Is True. Overall, I would call this a dark wave album, but it does also venture into the territory of synth pop, dark electronic, and shoegaze. June 11th brought us 2 releases that I'm very excited about. The first comes to us from Portland-based synth pop duo Ritual Veil. They released a 3-track EP called Keep Looking Down. Ritual Veil is one of my favorite synth pop artists of all time. This is the first time they've released new material since 2017, so I was so excited when they released it. It's just as good as their last EP, so check it out. The second release on the 11th is an 8-track album called Casa Luna from Arizona-based ethereal wave band Lycia. Lycia is a longtime favorite of mine. They're an ethereal classic, releasing material since the late 80s, and this latest release does not disappoint. If you're a Lycia fan or into the more ethereal side of music, go check this album out. On June 18th, Netherlands-based artist PALAIS Ideal released a 3-track EP called The Art of Crashing. This EP is a dark post-punk sound with hints of dark wave in the mix. If you're a fan of post-punk with strong driving bass, give this one a listen. On June 23rd, New York-based artist Sere released a 5-track EP called Finite. This one is a dark synth pop EP. If you're into bands like Depeche Mode and Information Society, you'll probably like this one. I have 3 really cool releases from June 25th. The first is a 10-track album from Liverpool-based darkwave band Double Echo. The album title is a crescent moon symbol. I love Double Echo's last album, Burning in Blue, and this new album did not disappoint. They have a very 80s-inspired old-school sound. There are hints of first-wave post-punk and 80s new wave throughout the album. The second release from June 25th is a 10-track album from Detroit-based duo VAZUM. The album is called V+ and has flavors of goth rock, dark wave, and shoegaze. If you're looking for something that leans a little on the heavier side of goth music, check this one out. The third release from June 25th is a 9-track album from English post-punk band 1919. 1919 is a classic band that's been around since the early days of the scene. This album borders between post-punk and goth rock. If you're a fan of Children on Stun, check this album out. On June 30th, English darkwave artist The Secret Experiment released a 6-track EP called Charms and Knots. I would recommend this one to anyone who's a fan of that third-wave 90s darkwave sound. Moving along to July of 2021. On July 1st, Finland-based artist Carnal released a 9-track album called Cluster A. I would say this album is death rock with hints of dark wave. If you're a fan of bands like Skeletal Bats and Psycho Formalina, check this one out. I have 4 releases to share from July 2nd. First, French darkwave artist Hante released a 9-track album called Morning Tsunami. The quality of this album is definitely consistent with Hante's previous work. It's a very ethereal kind of darkwave that leans heavier on the electronic side, so some may call it more goth adjacent. It's the kind of album you can just chill out and relax with. Next, for July 2nd, Italian darkwave duo iamnoone released a 6-track EP called Besides. This is a really laid-back kind of darkwave that uses first-wave style post-punk. If you enjoy Joy Division and some of the early synth work in the 80s darkwave, give this one a listen. Also on July 2nd, German darkwave artist Attic Frost released a 6-track EP called Now Is All We Have. This is a very goth darkwave. If you're a fan of She Passed Away or PALAIS, check this one out. The last one for July 2nd comes from Oakland, California-based death rock band Gaggers. They released a 5-track EP called Songs for a Plague. This leans heavily on the punk side of death rock. I would classify it somewhere in the dark punk family, so if you're into punk rock, you'll probably like this release. On July 14th, Russian death rock band Deathhawk released a 5-track EP called Obostrania. This one falls a little more in between the punk and goth influences than the last track does. This is just a solid modern death rock EP. On July 29th, Bellport, New York-based minimal wave artist Austere released an 8-track album called Night Style. I absolutely love this album. It has almost that Eastern European cold wave lo-fi kind of sound. If you're a Molchat Dama fan, check this album out for sure. On July 30th, Canadian post-punk band TRAITRS released a 6-track EP called The Sick, Tired, and Ill. This one has a little more of a darkwave flavor than their previous releases. They incorporated more synth this time around. I would recommend this band overall to fans of The Cure. If you like The Cure, you'll probably enjoy TRAITRS. Finally, we will cover the releases for August of 2021. On August 5th, Monterrey, Mexico-based darkwave band Deliverance released a 12-track album called Astral. This album is the gothiest of goth darkwave. If you're into Paralyzed Age's work in the 90s, you might like this album. I have 3 releases to cover for August 6th. The first is a 10-track album from 80s synthpop legends Information Society. This album leans a little more towards the industrial and electronic realm, but a lot of goths are fans of Information Society's work from the 80s, so I thought I'd let you all know that they put out a new album. The second release from August 6th is a 10-track album called HALLOWS from Australian darkwave duo The Cold Field. This is a very dark post-punk based darkwave album. If you're into bands like Twin Tribes, you might be into this album as well. The third release from August 6th comes to us from Baltimore, Maryland-based artist L'Avenir. It's a 4-track EP called Souvenir, and I would describe this as a dark synth pop bordering on darkwave. If you like bands like Ritual Veil, you might like this EP. On August 15th, English artist The Cathedral Machine released a 9-track album called A Far Cry From Here. Overall, I would categorize this album as dark post-punk. This is an interesting one though. The vocals remind me of Peter Murphy and at times even David Bowie, while the instrumentals have almost a post-punk heavy darkwave sound. On August 17th, Cleveland, Ohio-based dark electronic artist Nvoke released a 5-track EP called Abstract. This one has a synth pop sound to it. If you're into 80s reminiscent electronic music, give this one a listen. On August 18th, American goth rock artist Rosicrucia released a 4-track EP called Craft. I would recommend this to anyone who likes that third wave 90s goth rock sound like Rosetta Stone. On August 20th, Philadelphia-based goth post-punk band Tragic Age released a 10-track album called Afterlife. This is a post-punk based darkwave, but I would say it's on the harder side of post-punk. Tragic Age has a very unique sound. Definitely check this one out. On August 22nd, New York-based electronic artist Sere released a 4-track EP called The Candle. This one is more on the synth pop electronic side. If you're into early 2000s synth pop, check this one out. This is also the second EP released by Sere in summer of 2021. On August 27th, San Francisco-based post-punk band Dark Bias released an 11-track album called Hangar 18. I would call this more goth-adjacent post-punk. It's got a little bit of that British indie pop sound to it, but if you're into post-punk, you might dig this album. On August 28th, Charlotte, North Carolina-based shoegaze band Buried in Roses released an 11-track self-titled album. If you're a fan of shoegaze, dream pop, or ethereal wave, I would recommend checking this album out. Finally, on August 31st, Greek goth band Angels Arcana released a 10-track album called The Reveries of Solitude on the label Swiss Dark Nights. This is a truly goth album. I would recommend it to anyone who's a fan of second or third wave goth rock and dark wave. So there you have it, folks. My picks for new music releases for summer of 2021. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in my next video.